Despite 2 consecutive 7th place finishes just after they were promoted to the Premier League, Wolves' progress has stalled a little bit in recent years. They've found themselves stuck in mid-table, not a terrible place to be, but with no real signs of getting back to the glory they once had winning the Premier League in the 50s, or even the glory of recent years in playing European football. So today, I'm going to try and change that. I've got 5 seasons as manager of Wolverhampton Wanderers. I'm going to try and get them up the divisions, get them into Europe, and try and win them some trophies. Who knows, maybe even go on to win the Premier League. And it's not like Wolves don't know success. The club's got 2 League Cups in their cabinet, 4 FA Cups, and even 3 English top division honours, but as you can see, they're not really going anywhere fast. But despite that, we are a Premier League club, and with that comes a big reputation, a nice stadium, as well as some great facilities, and of course, the club already has some fantastic players to help us to eventually get into them European spots. Matheus Cunha is arguably our best player, and Pedro Neto, when fit, is one of the Prem's best wingers. So there's already some top talent in the team, but there is also some promising players on the way up. The 22-year-old João Gomes is a regular in the first team with big potential, whilst former wonderkid Rayan Aït-Nouri is still full of promise, and whilst he hasn't reached the heights yet, there was once a lot of stock in Fabio Silva. So there's already a strong team here, and that was without even including names like Jose Sá, Semedo and Guedes. But despite all that, this is of course the Premier League, one of the most competitive leagues in the world, where we're only predicted an 11th place finish, 150 to 1 odds of winning the title. We're not going to be winning the Premier League just yet, but maybe some signings can help us get there. Although it is going to be tough to do with only a transfer budget of £4 million and 100 grand of wage budget, and financially, despite there being some money in the club's overall balance when it comes to the debts and loans, there's quite a bit of money we still need to pay off. So it's not all doom and gloom here at Wolves, but if we're going to build up this club, we're going to need to start bringing in the right profile of players and taking this team to the next level. So let's see who we can sign in season 1. And despite that seemingly small budget, because of some sales, we have been able to start putting our own spin on the squad already within our first season. Leaving first was Daniel Podence, the 27-year-old winger. I think is a decent player, but we have got a very good fee for him. He's moved to Al Nassr in Saudi Arabia for 28 million. Someone that's been key for Wolves over the last few years, but it was time for him to move on, and we can reinvest that cash to no end. We've also moved on the Austrian striker Kaladzic, who I've sent to Atalanta. He's gone for 8.5 million. Yes, it's a loss on what Wolves originally paid for him, but he's not someone that I really saw a place for in the squad I was building, so it was best to sell him on now whilst his value was still fairly high. I've also loaned out Chiquinho with an option to buy to Genoa. Whether they'll take it, I don't know, but he's not someone that I really see a big future for, so he's going to Italy to hopefully develop and maybe secure a sale. And then surprisingly, Hwang Hee-chan, one of Wolves' best players in the most recent season, isn't necessarily very highly rated in Football Manager, so I sent him to Borussia Dortmund on loan for the season, again with an option to buy. They can pay £49 million should they want to, so it'll be a big fee if we do pull it off. It's unlikely, but at least he's getting some football there, because I don't think he would here. That's because I'm only playing a 1-striker system, but I am looking to play 3 at the back, and for that reason, I've brought in some extra defenders. After the departure of Max Kilman to West Ham, I thought there was a space there, so we brought in Asa Mandi on a free. This is a player that was playing for Villarreal, not completely unused to a back 3 system. The Algerian brings experience and ability. Whether he's going to help us for years on end or just a season or so, it doesn't really matter. I think he's a great pickup on a free transfer and a nice little boost to our defence. And speaking of boosting our defence, we signed an old player but also a younger talent. 20-year-old Valentin Gomez comes in for a fee of 7.25 million from Vélez out in Argentina. I think this is a good deal for what we've pulled off here. Good ability, a starter in our team already with the potential to grow. He is pretty small. I wouldn't actually have him in a back 2, but in a back 3, I feel like he could work out quite well. He's a left footer as well, so he'll play on the left-hand side of that defence, and fingers crossed he does a good job. And finally, I wanted some extra depth in the centre of midfield, so I've picked up Nicolas Capaldo, another Argentinian. This guy is 24, a workhorse in the midfield, even if technically he's not the world's best. He comes in for a fee of 8 million from Salzburg, formerly of Boca Juniors, has spent a few years out in Austria, and now he is a Wolves player and hopefully going to make a big impact in our team. team. And this is the tactic we'll be going for in this rebuild. It's a back three, a tick-attacker system, hopefully get Wolves playing some nice football, and the squad is already looking pretty strong. So let's introduce you to our best 11. Jose Sarr is our number one in the sticks, age 30, with Craig Dawson, the 33-year-old, alongside Mandy and Gomez, the two new incomings. 8 Nori is at left wing back, and Semedo, now 29, plays on that right-hand side. In the midfield, our best pairing is supposedly João Gomez and Capaldo, with Huang Hee-chan on the wing, who is out on loan, Pablo Sarabia on the right-hand side, the Spanish 31-year-old, and then Mateus Cunha supposedly as our best striker. Some other good players to keep an eye on. Belregard has been really good in real life for Wolves, but maybe isn't represented too well in FM. And then there's also new signing Rodrigo Gomez. The 20-year-old Portuguese national is a new signing for Wolves. He's in at the club here, and hopefully he can make something of himself on that right-hand side. But it doesn't seem like the game thinks those incomings have done too much for us, because we're still predicted 11th place mid-table, still 150 to 1 odds of winning the league. So we're definitely not expected to do too much this season, but fingers crossed, if this team can pull together and play well in the tactic, we might be able just to surprise some people. And season 1 was definitely a mixed bag. We learnt a lot about our team, but we had lots of failures as well as some successes along the way. Maybe the worst game of our season was late on when we faced off against Nottingham Forest, Alexandro scoring there. That was one of 6 goals that Forest scored in what was eventually a heavy 6-1 loss. But on the other end of the spectrum, we went to Old Trafford and took a 1-goal lead through Sarabia, and with only 5 minutes on the clock, we were able to make it 2 from the corner. And we even added a third, a long ball finding Fabio Silva, who managed to round Onana and score into an empty net. So there definitely was some positives and some negatives. So there's either 2 ways we're going to go about getting into a European position eventually. Either we just need time for the team to gel and start developing, or we're going to have to sign some players and try and overhaul this squad. And I'm thinking with only 5 years on the clock, it might be the latter. And that's because we finished nowhere near in the league, to be honest. 13 points away from Man United in 7th. We lost more games than we won, losing 17 and winning 13. 47 points, nowhere near even 9th place above us. In fact, if we'd only lost a few more, we could have saw ourselves sinking into a relegation position where it was the 3 promoted clubs all that went down this year. So it definitely wasn't our best year. The cups as well, nothing really to note other than the Carabao Cup, losing to Harrogate Town in the 4th round. A very disappointing result there, especially when you see that they beat us 3-1. And actually, did they go any further? They did. They beat Fulham 3-1, made the semi-finals where they played Manchester United and lost 11-0 on aggregate. Okay, so it was still a good effort from Harrogate, but as you can see, not our best year. We also had the points deduction in this season because of the way that FM works. Everton and Forest, if they didn't have their deductions, would have finished above us, and that would have saw us sitting in 12th place. Some positives we can take is Fabio Silva scored 7 times, our best performer, even if most of his games came from off the bench. Mario Lemina was pretty strong in the midfield, but he's the best of a bad bunch, really. The goals came from Sarabia with 15, not a bad effort from him, and then 12 goals from our man Pedro Neto on the wing. Mateus Cunha was a little bit disappointing, only scoring 8 games all season. So we definitely need to add some goals and firepower to this team, or maybe change the tactic a little bit to get something out of this. But we have got £50 million to spend, 100 grand the wage budget. There's a lot we can do with that money. So let's kick off the fun. This is where we can really get stuck into the overhaul, start changing this team round and making this squad a European contender. And it was a huge window for us, plenty of big sales and lots of new incomings in what is now a very much new look Wolves squad. But before I show you that, as always, I'm going to ask you guys to do me a big favour. If you could, smash the like button on the video. It really does help me out here on the channel in getting these videos out to more people. But more importantly at this point, if you can hit the subscribe button, if you are watching and are enjoying the content, we do weekly rebuilds and we're getting so close now to 40k subs. So any support towards that milestone would be massive. And comment down below what you want to see next. Every rebuild we do is based on your suggestions. And finally, the last thing, if you want to support me as a creator, in the description is a link to my Patreon, where over there, yes, you can support me, but in return, you will get access to all of the save files for every rebuild that we've done, season 1 through to 5, so you can take over at any point and try and do a better job, or continue these rebuilds after we've finished in season 5. But that's all the plugin done. Let's take a look at these transfers. Firstly, heading out the door, Matt Doherty said he wanted more game time, so we've sent him to Sporting Gijón. He's left the club for a very small fee of 775,000, but I didn't really fancy him in that position anyway, so we'll let him go and bring someone new in. A slightly more expensive sale was Yerson Mosquera, who has gone to Sassuolo. The Colombian international looks like he could be promising, but we've sold him for 2.5 million. He didn't play much last year, and as promising as he potentially might be, I just didn't really see him getting any better than the players we already had. Considering he's already passed his big development years as well, I thought it was best to cut ties with him. Pablo Sarabia has also left. Despite a very good season for us, he wanted something new, and when Lens came in, he wanted to go to them, so we've let him move to France, 6.25 million. It frees up the wages quite a lot, but that is one of our best goal scorers and creators from last season off. And for the same price, we also sold Mario Lemina to France. Again, one of our better performers last year, but he was older, he didn't have too long left on his contract, and I thought it made sense to shift him whilst we could for some cash. But the biggest sale was Nelson Semedo, who said he wanted to move on to a bigger club, and maybe he's done that in Hoffenheim, I don't necessarily know. They are in the Bundesliga here. Their reputation is the same as us in-game, but that's where he wanted to go. He wanted to go to Hoffenheim. He goes for 21 million, rising to 26. I'm not too mad at that. He can go for that kind of money. For a 30-year-old, it's not the worst deal. Then Hwang Hee-chan has gone on loan to Rennes, Rodrigo Gomez has gone on loan to Luton, and Chiquinho on loan to Getafe, all of which we're just trying to get some money from the loan and maybe secure a future sale on them. But now the fun bit, the incomings, where we needed some right wing backs with Doherty and Semedo going. We had no one for that position, so the first signing was Ignace van der Bremt, who is a 22-year-old Belgian national who we have found from Salzburg for 8 million. Our scouts reported on him, and it seemed like a very good fee for a player of this quality. He's not expected to be the starter in that position, but still is a player that's very versatile and will be a great squad option for us as we progress forward. The reason he's not the starter is this man is. We bought in Dodo, the 25-year-old Brazilian right wing back who we have signed from Fiorentina for 11 million pounds. Didn't play much last year for them. I'm not too sure why, because he looks like a quality player, has already scored in the first 2 games of the season that have been played whilst I've been making these transfers. Whether he's going to work out to be the main man at right back for the whole of this rebuild, I don't know, but for right now, he's definitely a better addition to the team, younger than Semedo too, so I feel like this one was a good signing. With Strand Larsen leaving after his loan was up, we needed a new attacker, so I've bought in Luis Suarez, not the one that you're thinking of. This is a Colombian international with 5 goals in 11 games for them, a very good player, a pacey striker who we've bought in for 12.25 million from Almeria, where he was brilliant last year in the second tier of Spain. There is no additional fees, it's a flat out fee, and I actually think it's a pretty good deal for what is a very hard working forward, a pressing option up top who can pass fairly well too. He could be the man that we need to lead this club to glory. And the signings kept coming. This one wasn't the most expensive, but is arguably the best one that we did. We have bought in the Swedish international 18-year-old Rooney Bargi, a star player for us at age 18, tells you just how good he could be, cutting on that left foot from that right-hand flank. We've bought him in for 16.5 million from Copenhagen, where he's been excellent when he has played. I think he's going to be a fantastic addition to our lineup on that right wing. He is going to tear it up in the Prem. We've added some real star quality at centre-back with the incoming of Lorenzo Parola. The Italian 22-year-old is already one of our best defenders, only 22. He's came in for 20 million from Olympiakos, where he spent the season out in Greece. It could rise to 21. I don't know whether it's going to work out long term, but I feel like this is a great deal for a man that's now valued at 60 million. A left footer as well, you don't come by him very regularly. Good with the ball at his feet, but also good in the tackle and physically imposing. A brilliant addition to a Premier League back line. And finally, for a similar fee, we've bought in a new midfielder, star player, Danish national Matt O'Reilly, who joins from Celtic. He's been great over there in the Scottish divisions, but how he'll step up to the Premier League, who knows? Lots of links with him in real life to Brighton and Chelsea, but here he is, a Wolves player, a left-footed midfielder who can play further forward and deeper if needed, decent in the tackle, but is really good with the ball at his feet. Technically, a very good midfielder with an eye for goal as well. He could be a brilliant signing in what we're trying to achieve. And straight away, we're seeing the impact that we've had on this team, because our best 11 is almost completely changed from what we originally inherited as manager here. Jose Sá retains his place in goal, but it's Santiago Bueno, the Uruguayan 25-year-old at the club, who takes his place in defence, alongside Mendy and Parola as our best back line. Dodo and Nate Nori are good wing backs with Capaldo and Gomez as 2 hard-working midfielders. Bargi's on the right, Hwang Hee-chan is supposedly on the left, but realistically, I think that's going to be Pedro Neto or maybe even Matheus Cunha. And then, of course, we've got Luis Suarez, we've got Guedes, Matt O'Reilly, Van der Bremt, Valentin Gomez as well that we signed last season. Plenty of great talent, and I'm hoping, fingers crossed, that means if we have a look at the season preview, we'll be predicted a better year. And we kind of are. It's a 10th place prediction, still 150 to 1 odds of winning the title. And if we have a look so far this year, we beat Leeds 2-0, but also lost to Brighton 2-0. So it might be a mixed bag yet again. Either way though, we're going to give it our best shot. We've made some signings, and now if this team starts not performing very well, the blame will fall on us because these are our players. So let's see what we can do in season 2, hopefully push up into Europe. And I feel like I'm going to sound like a broken record by the end of this rebuild, because season 2, we have exactly what's happened for Wolves over recent season. It's been a mixed bag yet again. We were good in some areas, poor in some others, much like season 1, perhaps a little bit better, but still some crazy results. Like this game against West Ham, where we concede after only 3 minutes from an easy corner routine. Memphis Depay scores. That was one of what was eventually another 6-goal smashing by the opposition. It seems away from home, things aren't quite working for us. But on the other end of the spectrum, we played some great football and managed to demolish some teams, like this home game against Crystal Palace, where Dodo comes into the box, finds Rooney Bargi. He scored, and that was again one of 6 goals. This time we won 6-1. But it was against the top 6 this season where we started to show a bit more nous and know-how, managing to pick up a few more points than we would have done in season 1. Take this game against Liverpool, where Núñez opened the scoring, and not too long afterwards they came forward yet again, Darwin Núñez breaking the lines and making it 2. Straight after half time though, clearly the team taught work, because Mateus Cunha was able to go past Kelleher and pull 1 goal back. And before we knew it, Dodo had burst down the right hand side, played it to Rooney Bargi, he pulled it back, Cunha added another, and we'd equalised. Our wing backs were crucial in this system, this time Aït-Nouri instead of Dodo, finding Cunha, who got his hat-trick to make it 3-2. All these goals happening within the first 10 minutes of the second half. We came forward yet again, Rooney Bargi on his left foot curls it in, and that helped us to an eventual victory against Liverpool, which last season we definitely would not have got. And with that, we secured a very solid 8th place finish. 60 points, more wins and losses this season, barely any draws, and 13 points more than what we achieved last year. If that isn't progress, I don't know what is. We were just outside of the top 7 places. If we'd won one more game, we could have finished ahead of Brighton and Manchester United and finished in 6th. So it was definitely progress, but again, some real mixed bag of results here that I don't know how to feel. As you can see, against lots of the big teams, we do struggle, away from home particularly, but we were winning most of our home ties, and that's something we can definitely take a positive from. The FA Cup, Brentford knocking us out in the quarters, and the Carabao Cup, Brentford yet again putting us to the sword. So whilst we could sit here and mull over every single positive and negative, I think what we can really take from this is we have some players now that we can build around for the future. Ryan Aït-Nouri, when fit, is a brilliant left wing back. Dodo has done really well in his first season on the right. We had Bargi chipping with 14 goals, making up for that Sarabia departure. Meanwhile, Cunha had a much better season, 19 goals from him, 8 from Pedro Neto, and 10 from Luis Suarez in his debut season as well, which has attracted the interest of, drumroll, Al Ittihad. So maybe a big Saudi transfer on the way from him. Speaking of transfers, we go into our 3rd season with 51 million, 170 grand a wage budget, and it looks like Rodrigo Gomez is the first of our loanees to actually get his option taken up. He'll be moving to Luton for a fee of 7 million. Not too bad there, to be honest. But I'm not going to keep you waiting any longer. That's 2 seasons under our belt, and with 3 seasons to go, if we're going to push on to Europe and try and win some trophies, maybe even the Prem, we're going to have to start bringing in some real star talent and making this team one that can compete with any team in the league. And after our success last year, I felt we needed to build on it in this window, bring in the right players, and I definitely think we've done that whilst also getting rid of some of the deadwood. So let's get into those departures, and whilst I wouldn't consider him deadwood, Mandy decided time was up here in a Wolves shirt, so we've let him move on to FC Nantes for 250,000 in France. He's getting a little bit older, but he served as well on a free deal, playing over 60 games and doing a good job of it. Kiyan Achova is someone that I didn't really think was going to make it for us with the players we had in the team, so the 23-year-old has moved to Twente in the last year of his deal for 1.5 million. Boubacar Traore is someone that might have promise in real life, but in game never lived up to it. He was signed by Wolves for 9.5 million, never played a game for us in the 2 years we were here, and now we sold him on for 2.7 million, rising to 3.3. We get some of the money back, and maybe he can find his feet back in France. Chiquinho does now leave permanently. He's gone to Braga in the Portuguese divisions for 3.1 million. It's the division he originally came from, so good luck to him here. We got got some money out of him in his loan, so it looks like it wasn't the worst deal for Wolves. Tommy Doyle has also moved surprisingly to Parma of all places in the Italian Serie A, a promising young player that never really got into our first team enough, particularly in the most recent season, so he wanted to go and we get 3.5 million, rising to about £1 million more. Kwang Hee-chan has finally made his move away permanent, and just to show you how poorly he is rated in game, he's moved to Monza, known as Brianza, in game for a fee of 5.5 million. This is a player that in real life could attract the interest of some pretty big clubs, I think, if he decided to leave Wolves, but here he's gone to Monza. Not a small club by any stretch, but not as good as you might think he could make it at. And of course we had Rodrigo Gomez, whose move was our biggest sale of the window. He's moved to Luton at the end of that loan deal, as mentioned earlier, so good luck to him. Based on his potential here, he was never going to make it at Wolves. So coming in, we had 3 players, all that I'm hoping can impact the first team. Firstly, it was Anel Ahmedhodzic, who joins us from Sheffield United. They were relegated at the end of last season, and for that reason he was available, and I know he hasn't performed great for them, but our scouts raved about him highly. 14 million was a good fee for a player going towards his prime years, with experience, with leadership, a good backline player who can add squad depth and maybe even push on to be a starter. We then brought in a young midfielder, Gabriel Mizahoy, 20-year-old Netherlands national, joins us from Girona for 15 million, formerly of Ajax. When he did play for them, he played well, but our scouts seem convinced that he's going to go right to the very top, even with the limited game time he's had so far. So we've brought him in, and fingers crossed he can make it here at Wolves. But my favourite signing of the lot is a new star midfielder, arguably the star of the whole team. Giovanni Fabian, the 22-year-old, joins us for 19.5 million from Bologna. And whilst his performances again haven't been anything electric, 11 goals from midfield for Bologna team is not bad, and his attributes are phenomenal. A hard worker who can tackle, pass, score goals. Him and Matt O'Reilly in the middle could make up an excellent midfield partnership, and valued at 50 million now, that 20 million seems like a great deal for a player that's still only 22 with plenty of years left in the tank. So this is what we're currently looking at as our best 11. Jose Sarr is the goalkeeper. Van der Bremt, who he signed to be a right wing back, has kind of adapted to play this centre back role in the team now, and has done it pretty well. He's got Belgian caps at this point. He's alongside Ahmedhodzic and also Parola, with Dodo and Aït-Nouri at wing backs, Gomez and Fabian a very strong midfield, with Suarez, Cunha and Bargi making up an electric attack that I think could take the Premier League by surprise, to be honest, because prediction wise we are still predicted, I'm going to assume mid-table. Yes, we are. It's actually gone to 50 to 1 odds of winning the title, which is far better. So we're basically considered as good as Brighton and West Ham, but not as good as the likes of Villa, Man U and Spurs, which we need to try and close the gap on if we want to be a European team. So now that the transfers have been made, the team is ready to go. We need to see what we can do in our 3rd season here. If we don't get any closer to any kind of silverware, it might start looking pretty unlikely that we'll do anything in this rebuild. So fingers crossed season 3 can be a better year, or at least the best that we've had so far. Okay, and we can breathe a sigh of relief because Season 3 I think went much better than our other 2 seasons. Let's start off before we look at the league though with the Carabao Cup, where for the first time we actually had a chance at winning the competition, making it to the quarter-final against Salford. It should have been an easy win, and it definitely was. Pedro Neto scoring a couple goals in what was eventually a 3-1 win. That set up a 2-legged semi-final against Liverpool, where rather coincidentally, the guy that scored for us against Liverpool was called Luis Suarez. And we took that 1-0 advantage to Anfield, but in the away leg, a deflected free kick equalised early on. And not too long afterwards, a corner came in. We were defeated in the air. Diego Jota out to Fatih Kanti, who scored, and Liverpool were leading. We weren't ready to give up just yet though, and with some great football, we managed to find Luis Suarez once again in the Liverpool area, his shot deflecting and going in to equalise. But it was in the second half, with minutes ticking away, where our hearts were broken. We had all eyes set on the final. Liverpool would have been the hardest team left in the competition, but Szoboszlai scored a screamer and we were out. But in the league, it was certainly a much better season for us, and once again we started to show we could really compete with the Big Six, winning some brilliant ties. First on the chopping block was Chelsea, who conceded this goal from Cunha to lose. Some poor defence from Arsenal allowed us to get in behind and eventually score, which led to a 4-1 victory. And our tactic was clearly coming together because we played Manchester United off the park, Luis Suarez getting into the box, pulling it back for Cunha, who scored in what was a 4-0 win. And that wasn't enough to win us the the league or anything like that, but it did manage to get us 74 points, 23 wins, 10 losses, and a 5th place finish, which has actually given us a UCL position. All top 9 positions got European football this year, and actually, despite it not being the best season in Premier League history, we were only 10 points away from the eventual winners, Man City. So on another season, a few more wins, and we actually might have been able to win the league. In fact, if we had 2 more wins, we would have finished in a very close 2nd place position. So not a worse year by any stretch. 4th round of the FA Cup, semi-final of the Carabao Cup, Man United going into administration and getting a 9-point deduction. It's a bit of a side story going on here. But what we need to focus on is our own team, where we've got some fantastic performers to build on. Remember, in our first year, we only had 1 player with a 7 rating. Now we've got Fabian with 6 goals, Aït-Nouri with 3, Cunha and Luis Suarez scoring 46 goals between the pair of them. João Gomez, Sarr, Dodo, Pirola, Bargi, all having brilliant years. There's even 8 goals from Neto still, who we haven't spoke too much about, but is still chipping away in this Wolves team and doing what he can. And it really was a fantastic season all around from our Wolves squad. 3 years in the bank, and now we're starting to look like the kind of club that could actually potentially put on a title push with a few transfers. We've got European football, but if we are going to go any further than that, we need to keep building the squad up, make some new signings, and we've got £55 million to do so. 203 grand a wage budget. This is where we can start having some fun, bringing in some big names. 4 years in, who knows what could happen at this point in the season 4 transfer window. And this is going to be the most exciting window yet. We sold £150 million worth of players. We spent 120 on new incomings, and there's plenty of fresh faces that I think are going to make this squad 10 times better. Let's start with the outgoings though. Guedes has left the club to join Torino in Italy for 2.8 million. He was out on loan there last season. They paid 1.9 million for that year, 2.8 million here. We make some money back, but it's nowhere near the original price that Wolves paid for him, which looks to be a terrible deal now. But there were 3 major sales. The first of which was Pedro Neto, who gets a huge contract at Al Ahly that we cannot compete with. We got a big fee though, 35 million quid for him, and considering he hasn't been the world's best for us over the last 3 years and his contract was starting to run down, I think that was a pretty good sale from us, despite what he might mean to Wolves fans. We've also moved on Luis Suarez to Al Hilal. He's on a mega contract over there. We've got 46 million quid for him after a pretty good second season, but not the best first season. But the most interesting thing about this was Saudi side Al Hilal actually made a £30 million bid, despite him having a £36 million release clause. I then rejected that. He then came forward and said, what money will it take for me to leave? And I said 46 million, which he agreed to. Suddenly Al Hilal paid that, despite there being a £36 million release clause, so I don't know why, but we made 10 million more than I thought we possibly could. Luis Suarez is out, and we had loads of money to reinvest in the squad. But we kept adding to that transfer pot because we also moved on João Gomez, who has gone to play for Al Ittihad. Again, another Saudi transfer. They came in and offered 58 million, rising to 63 for a good defensive midfielder, but a 63 million pound one, no way. Not based on the way that he's been playing for us, at least. I think that's a fantastic bit of outgoing business for us. We had loads of money then to spend on new players to really rejuvenise this team and take us to the next level. Coming in first was Ezequiel Fernandez, the Argentinian 24-year-old, signed for 10.75 million from Boca Juniors, a midfield squad depth option that I think will go down well for that price, and it can't really go wrong. Luis Suarez has been replaced by Eddie Nketiah, a brilliant player and football manager, even if he hasn't been playing too much for Arsenal in real life. He's now 27 here, and we got him on the transfer list for 14.75 million, which looks to be a bargain for the player we've got, as he's probably going to be now our new number 1 striker. We've got a wing option to deputise Farouni Bargi. This is our Pedro Neto replacement, Luis Enrique, the 25-year-old Brazilian who signs from Botafogo in Brazil, where he has been exceptional for 4 seasons there, 15.5 million, rising to 18. Not the world's biggest fee, but he's happy to be a squad player, and I think that's exactly what we need to add some depth as we're now playing European football. Curtis Jones is a fantastic signing in the midfield who we've got for a cut price fee of 17 million on the transfer list at Liverpool after a loan at West Ham. He's never really hit the heights in this rebuild so far for anyone, but maybe he can do it here in a Wolves shirt. We've got a new defender too, Sebastian Boselli, the Uruguayan 22-year-old, signs for us, an extra defensive option for 17.5 million, rising to 20. He's been doing really well for River Plate in Argentina, and it's another South American player that we add to our new look Wolves team. We're planning for the future future without Jose Sarr with the signing of Bart Verbruggen, who joins us for a fee of 21 million. He was only the backup goalkeeper at Brighton. They actually signed someone else to play over him, so it's not the worst deal for one of the best young goalkeepers in the world. Still 23, a Netherlands international. It might not have worked for him just yet, but maybe at Wolves he can find his feet. And finally, we have an exciting young talent in Rooney Bargi on the right, and on the left we've got a similar one now. Antonio Nusa, the Norwegian international, 6 goals in 17 games, £100 million valuation, an electric option on both wings, joins for 32 million quid. Club Brugge out in Belgium is the club that he comes from, where he's done pretty well, and he is going to be a star player for us, and I think elevates us to a whole new dimension. And this team now looks absolutely stacked, with Jose Sarr hanging on to his place in goal, Boschelli, Pirola and Ahmed Hodzic, a very strong back line. Ahmed Hodzic, by the way, a very shrewd pickup, has done really well for us since signing in his first season. Van der Bremt and Ain't Nori are supposedly the best wing backs, with Fabian and Jones in the midfield alongside Bargi, Nusa and Nketiah, with loads of great players throughout the squad sprinkled around. And we have been improving the facilities at the club too during our time here. Our reputation has gone up a little bit also, and financially there's £32 million in the overall balance. The debts and loans are starting to decrease, so everything is on the way up, but we need this team to perform in season 4 if we want any kind of silverware from this rebuild. There's only 2 seasons to do it now, so fingers crossed we can achieve something in the 4th season. And this year was absolutely baffling, I must say, because in the Champions League, I thought we'd just give it a good go and maybe just eke out of the league phase, but we did a little bit better than that. Because after beating Club Brugge in the knockout playoff round, we made it to the round of 16 where we faced off against Sevilla, and having won 2-1 at home, we increased the score away, and Nketiah making it 3. Sevilla, though, are a team that can definitely give us a good challenge. They're probably a similar level to where I'd say we are right now, and they managed to pull a goal back to make it 3-2. And before too long, they managed to add a third, Iheanacho, equalising the tie and putting us to extra time. But it was here where we managed to step up. Luis Enrique doing brilliantly on the right, finding Bueno on the left. He slotted it through to Nketiah, who added his second of the game. And just to seal the deal, with 115 minutes on the clock, the ball came in, arguably a penalty there for us, but Bueno was able to tuck it away, give it to Nketiah, who got his hat-trick. And that meant we were now in the quarter-finals, where we faced off against Atletico Madrid. And it was the own goal show out in Spain, with them scoring an own goal very early on through Mukiele, but then we managed to put one in the back of our own net as well, a Llorente shot taking a big deflection off Pirola and going in. So it was really all to play for in the second leg, the home tie of the quarter-final of the Champions League. And we got off to a flyer early on, Enrique playing it across to Cunha, I believe scoring against his old club, but Atletico are of course a very strong squad and arguably a bit better than us. Mukiele, who scored an own goal in leg 1, played the ball in, Sukic headed it home, and we were going to extra time. But we'd already been in this position in the round of 16, so to be there in the quarter-final didn't make too much of a difference for us, and once again we created a chance, O'Reilly scoring a brilliant strike and sending us to the semis. And after drawing PSG, we assumed our competition would be over, but they came to the Molineux, and after only 3 minutes, Van der Bremt found Nketiah, who made it 1-0. And it wasn't long before we added a second, Enrique with a header past Donnarumma, and before the whistle had even been blown for half-time, Van der Bremt came forward again on the right, found Nketiah for a similar finish to make it 3. And that was the end score. We managed to beat PSG 3-0 at the Molineux, and all we needed now was a decent result in the semi-final second leg, and we were off to the final of the Champions League. But that wasn't quite what happened. I'm not going to make you watch the game, but as you can see on screen, the second leg at the Parc des Princes did not go so well, and we didn't make the final. But you know what? It was a brilliant season. Newcastle knocking us out of both the domestic cups was slightly disappointing, but that Champions League run was incredible. We once again secure a European position, 7th place, and a Europa League finish, just ahead of Manchester United. 68 points, not as many as in recent seasons, but still, we can't complain too much. Playing more competitions than before, getting so far in the UCL. This was a great year to be a Wolves fan. And we've got past the point now of being a 1 or 2 man army. Everyone is contributing, whether it's Fabian, O'Reilly, Van der Bremt, Bargi, Jones, Nketiah with 23 goals in his first year, Cunha with 22, Antonio Nusa with 14. Everything you could want from this team is happening. Young stars performing well, the experienced ones also putting in a shift and doing well for this club. At the same time, we've improved the facilities even further, and we go into our final season with £75 million of transfer budget, 100 grand the wage budget. So we head into our 5th season now, our last chance to get some silverware at Wolves. Even though it's been a success so far, we'd like to add a trophy to that cabinet to make us feel like we've at least done something, but first we need to bring some players in to help us get there. And even though we had some great success last season, I still brought in some new players, keeping it fresh and selling some players on. But before we see that, it's the last time I can ask you in this video. If you have enjoyed it, please go ahead, smash that like button, subscribe if you haven't already. It takes a few seconds to do, but massively, massively helps me. But that's all the plug-in done. Let's go and see the transfers. Leaving was Santiago Bueno, who has gone to Almeria in Spain for a fee of 2.4 million. A good servant, but it was right to move him on at this point. And the same goes for Belregard, who's never really quite hit the heights here for us, as he's done for Wolves in his first season in real life. We've moved him to Celta Vigo in Spain, 4.2 million. 2 good loans out in France has earned him that move. And overall, we make about half the money back that Wolves originally spent on him. But the big sale, the one that really added to our finance pot, was Eddie Nketiah, who has moved to Al Ahly. He's got a mega contract there, turned up for 1 season at Wolves, had a good year, 14 million, turned into 47 very quickly. We cannot complain about that. He actually played for Liverpool at some point here. Here was I thinking I bought him from Arsenal, but no, he moved to Liverpool, didn't do well there, and then we picked him up. Either way, I don't care. We've made huge profit on Eddie Nketiah, and I think that's one of our best transfers in a rebuild for a long time. His replacement was a free signing, which I think adds even more to how good that transfer was. Evan Nilsson, 27-year-old Brazilian, joins us. The Brazilian core in this Wolves team continues. He joins from Porto, where he's been exceptional for a few years, but was let go at the end of his deal, or at least chose to leave as a free agent. We've had to pay him some pretty big wages, but I think he could be worth it if he can just get past his injury proneness. Jose Sarr has moved on to pastures anew now, so we needed a new goalkeeper to compete with Verbruggen, and actually, I think it might not be long before this guy takes over Verbruggen's level. This is 20-year-old goalkeeper Juan Marquez, who's been playing for Girona in Spain and hasn't been doing very well, but has been playing football at an early level for a goalkeeper. We've got him for 18 million, which is a bargain fee. Not many goalkeepers play at this age, but he was. He's got great one-on-one ability, suits the sweeper-keeper role well as well, so I think this could work out. He can apparently play for Senegal as well. I don't know if that's going to happen, but you know what? He could be our new number 1. But our biggest signing, I think potentially of this whole rebuild so far, correct me if I'm wrong, is this guy, Alessandro Marsandali, who we have spent 30 million quid on, rising to 34. I feel like that's the biggest fee. We signed him from Genoa in Serie A. He was one of the best centre-backs available on the market. I don't know him in real life. He must be quite a young player, but what a bargain he looks to be. Great with the ball at his feet, physically imposing, a great defender as well, and brilliant in the air. He could be the thing that we need to take this defence to another level, and that was our final signing of this rebuild. And now this is our best team. Don't worry, not this. Let's make it now. Let's see what our best 11 will be for our 5th and final season. It's Verbruggen in goal, arguably our weakest position in the net, but I trust both the potential of the keepers we've got. Marsandali, Boschelli and Parola is a strong defence with Van der Bremt and Aït-Nouri and the wing-back positions. Van der Bremt, by the way, has been a really good signing for us. I wouldn't have expected so much from him when we paid £8 million for him. Fabian and Jones is the best midfield, with Nusa, Bargi and Evan Nilsson as a very exciting attack. And again, there's just so much talent on the bench as well. We've got some good youth players to take up those reserve spots, and fingers crossed all will go well for us in our final season. They want to see a top half finish. We've got Europa League football to play too. The game's predicting an 8th place finish, 33-1 odds of winning the title. So we're definitely making the right kind of progress. So it's time to go. Our final season. Let's see what we can do in season 5. Okay, our 5th season is complete, our last season, and I must say, in some rebuilds we get the fairy tale ending of somehow winning the Prem, or somehow winning a European competition. That didn't quite happen for us here, so let's start with the Europa League. We came top in the league phase and absolutely dominated in the competition, making it to a quarter-final against Sevilla, where actually we struggled quite a lot. We were 1-0 down and pulled a goal back after this deflection, but with 86 minutes played at the Molineux, we were playing it around with Ezequiel Fernandez. A poor pass back found Mark Gui, the current Chelsea player. He tucked it away and we lost a tie and went out. So we didn't do great in Europe, but for the first time in a while, the domestic competitions we started to get further in, and it looked like we might have a chance to win one of them. Because in the Carabao Cup, we had a semi-final 2-legged affair against Middlesbrough. It was 2-2 in leg 1, but then we came to their stadium and got off to a flyer through Nusa. And once again, Nusa on that right wing was able to play a good ball in and find Cunha for his first of the game. He then got a second from a penalty spot. He then scored another from the penalty spot, and not satisfied with 2 goals from penalties, he actually scored a third. And after that weird attempt at defending from Middlesbrough, giving away all those penalties, we made it through and we were heading to a Carabao Cup final. And perhaps quite favourably, we were playing Leeds, who you would actually say we'd be going into this as favourites, and Cunha, who's been scoring since day one, scored here to put us in the lead. And it wasn't too long afterwards that a quick set piece routine found Evan Nilsson, who made it 2. Leeds though weren't giving up, Madueke finding Christensen in the middle, he managed to dart through, find Aronson who pulled one back. But it wasn't enough, Leeds couldn't do any more, and we were able to win the Carabao Cup. We'd got some silverware, we'd won 2-1, it probably isn't the trophy we wanted to win at the start of this rebuild, but we'll certainly take it. But it wasn't the only domestic cup that we had a chance in, because in the FA Cup we were up against Oxford United in the semi-final. This is kind of bringing back shades of that Harrogate match that we had early on, but this time we weren't losing, Curtis Jones scored, it was a tight 1-0 game, we did manage to win it, we knocked Oxford out and we were heading to the final. And it was Arsenal that we played in a cagey affair with no real chances that went all the way to extra time. But we have been the kings of extra time in this rebuild, and Luis Enrique kind of scored to make it 1-0, I don't think he knew what he was doing. And then with 110 minutes on the clock, Noosa down the right, linking up with Dodo, finding Evan Nilsson out to O'Reilly, who scored this screamer, and we were going home with a 2-0 win, 2 trophies in the bag, the FA Cup and the Carabao Cup. It's not exactly what we would have aimed for, but I'll certainly take it in our 5th and final season. Because outside of that, in the league we had managed to finish in 6th place, not our best points tally by any stretch, but you know what, we're going to take it. We've won 2 trophies, we've continued to get Wolves into a better position year on year, doing okay in European competition as well, a Champions League semi-final on the road, not much more you could ask for as a Wolves fan. Cunha had his best season yet with 30 goals, age 29, what a player he was. Evan Nilsson with 22, Rooney Bargi with 15, Noosa with 19, everyone contributing all across the pitch. The club's facilities are at a great state, we've got loads of good players coming through in the dev centre also that might have potential for the first team. 2 trophies added to the cabinet, we've taken Wolves away from that mid-table position they keep finishing in real life, and there we go. That's our Wolves rebuild done. Make sure you check out the Patreon if you want to continue it after this video. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.